Welcome back, friends, to another episode of the Gaming on the Brain podcast. Today is one that we've been looking forward to for a long time. As always, I'm here with Glenn.
Hello.
So today, Streets of Rage on the Sega Mega Drive / Genesis, depending where you're living. One that we've wanted to do for a long time before the podcast was even conceived. It's been on our list. Eventually, I want to hit all of the Streets of Rage games, but you can only start with number one, can't you? At the end of the day,
Yeah, we'll start at the beginning because it's the good thing about the Street Rage games is generally, as a keyword, they do get better with each successive instalment, or there's some improvements made anyway. But yeah, I mean, Street Rage 1 was the beginning, and it's a fairly simple game for its time and that, but it was a product of its time, and it's a legend. It's a legend.
oh, absolutely. So, something I still spend time on these days, quite often going back and playing them. But yeah, we won't spend too long on the introduction. We don't have any comments to read out this week, but what I have learned today is that we've got our first super fan,
yeah,
in the shape of our good friend Kerry.
Hello, Kerry.
So just want to give a big shout out to Kerry, and hope you're doing well. Please keep the support up. Thank you very much. Tell your friends about us. They might find it entertaining, and hopefully listen along as well. As always, anybody else out there who's listening, thank you for your support as well. Please pass the word around, drop us a comment, like, subscribe, all that jazz. And hey, we'll hope you enjoyed the episode, guys. And yeah, we'll see you after the short break. Okay.
See you later.
See you soon.
You've got Gaming on the Brain.
Welcome back, everyone, to today's episode of the Gaming on the Brain podcast. Today is all about Streets of Rage, and it's an episode I've been looking forward to doing for quite a while. And Glenn, I know you have too.
Absolutely, without a doubt.
There's a lot of things that I want to say about Streets of Rage. I mean, it's a truly fantastic game. I think the best way to open up this episode, Glenn, is probably to talk about why Streets of Rage was conceived.
From what I've always read from magazines back in the day, and I am talking about like 1989, 1990, generally when the game was just starting to be conceived, as Mark says.
Yeah, developed.
Yeah, in its development phase. It was actually envisaged as a I couldn't say it as a competitor to the Famicom game Final Fight. I mean the Famicom version of Final Fight, the Super Famicom,
yeah, which originated as a
CPS2 arcade game.
CPS1, wasn't it?
Yeah, CPS1 at the time, yeah. But the thing is, obviously, to talk about Final Fight quickly on the Super Nintendo, it's a very good conversion. I mean, the playability is there, big sprites, good music, good feels like the arcade game, but it loses a few very, very important features due to cartridge size at the time, which was acceptable. But it's a one-player game. It loses a character, obviously Guy, anyone who knows, and it loses one full level as well. So it does lose quite a bit of content. Remember, this is coming out around about the same time as games like Golden Axe on the Mega Drive, which we've discussed previously, which actually added content. So as much as Final Fight was very playable, it was a slight disappointment. And I mean, I know others were disappointed too. So Street of Rage, the concept of Street of Rage was created as a competitor to Final Fight on the Famicom, coming out about the same time as well. So, I mean, without going too much into detail just now, because we're about to in a short while, the game isn't as visually impressive as Final Fight because of what it is, but it's still a great competitor. It has a two-player mode, which Final Fight doesn't. Anyway, back to you, Mark.
Yeah, to set the scene here, so Final Fight released on the Super Famicom back in December 1990. Streets of Rage released in August 1991 in Japan. I've done my homework here.
Yeah.
So to set the scene, basically Sega have looked at Capcom and the release of Final Fight on the Capcom CPS1.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, Capcom and Nintendo had signed a deal and that Capcom would support
exclusivity
Nintendo
at the time for
yeah,
several classic
I think it was.
Capcom games.
Yeah.
And Squadron as well.
So Sega's answer to that was, okay, well, we're going to create a clone of Final Fight, which ended up being Streets of Rage. However, what we'll get into here is that Streets of Rage is far more than just a clone of Final Fight.
And I mean, again, without discussing the series in the whole, because we do want to do that, go that route in the future, I think personally now, Streets of Rage as a series has far surpassed Final Fight. I mean, anyone who knows of Streets of Rage 4 will maybe agree anyway. But the Final Fight games, definitely, as far as Super Nintendo versions went, they were still very good, but they tended always to play second fiddle to the Streets of Rage series on Mega Drive. In my opinion, definitely story and music-wise, which... I mean, story-wise is quite a big deal. Music, not usually for many, but when you realise that was the great Yuzo Koshiro who did the soundtrack for Streets of Rage, and all the tunes are great, I mean, you can beat along to these, you can put them on in the car, where Final Fight is obviously based more on along like what you would expect in the arcade at the time, not nearly as catchy. So it's just amazing how music has played such a big part in the Streets of Rage series, being a big reason why the series became so big, isn't it?
Definitely, I absolutely love the music, especially on the second one. But to go into that a little bit further, I don't like putting restrictions on what we talk about on the podcast because I want us to
go
be
off on a tangent.
I want us to be open as possible as we can about
Yeah.
anything and not have to worry about not saying something. But I think for the purpose of today's episode, I think if you're going to do comparisons, I think we should compare against Final Fight.
Which I agree. And specifically the
Famicom version, yeah.
Put the arcade out because that's not fair.
I mean, I'm sure it's not a spoiler for anyone when we say Streets of Rage 2 far surpasses Streets of Rage 1. I'm sure that's universally agreed.
And it's expected. It's a much later game, and it's on a bigger cartridge. I mean, so it's expected. So
to compare Streets of Rage 2 against Streets of Rage 1 is not really fair.
Yeah, it's not fair. And to me, it takes the natural progression that a sequel absolutely should.
It's probably, in my opinion, it's probably one of the greatest sequels of all time.
Without digressing too much, I'll just mention Golden Axe 1 and 2 quickly, as in the Mega Drive versions. Now, I like Golden Axe 2 as a Mega Drive game. I think it's a good, fun game, but as a sequel, it's quite poor because it doesn't really progress the formula in any way. And I mean, anyone who's played Golden Axe 2 on the Mega Drive will also realise that it's pretty much almost like just a sprite change, really, with very little alterations and very little improvements over the original gameplay in the first version of Golden Axe on the Mega Drive.
Yeah, absolutely right.
Absolutely completely different with the Streets of Rage series.
So, Glenn, one of the first things, I mean, I always seem to ask you the same question, but I'm going to ask you it again because it's becoming routine now.
And it doesn't matter.
And the reason why I ask you this question for everybody else, for the 2 or 3 people out there who listen,
we're getting there.
Typically, I've kind of followed Glenn's tastes throughout the years because with him being the older brother by 15 years older than me or something, aren't you? Oh, you
I felt it last week.
Yeah, Glenn would typically bring a game home, and I would get into it because Glenn was into it and would play it 2-player and stuff like that. And Streets of Rage was no different to most other games that I remember from my childhood. So the question over to you, Glenn, is what got you into Streets of Rage?
Well, I hate to sound like a broken record because I think I've said this at least on 2, if not 3 of our podcasts now. But it was a friend at the time who got a Mega Drive. It's the friend who's been in at least 2 of the recent ones.
Kev?
Kev, yeah, always Kev. Kev was the same guy who got the Super Famicom, actually goes into Final Fight. But anyway, he got the Japanese Mega Drive at the time, and he had Golden Axe, he had a couple of the games, including Alien Storm, and other games as well, which I weren't interested in, but he had... I remember, actually, Kev coming up to me at the time, excited as hell, absolutely jumping for joy, and showing us screenshots of this game in the magazine. He was like, "Oh, there's this new fighting game coming out called Bare Knuckle." That's what he said it was. It was a fighting game.
Which is the Japanese name for Streets of Rage.
Which it is, yeah. And, it blew his socks off, and it blew my socks off because it just looked so fantastic, honest. So he got that as soon as it came out. We played that. We loved that. But I was always, at the time, I was still always more of a Golden Axe man. I just liked the theme a little bit more. I think it's because I was a bit done to death with Double Dragon, and I played a lot of Final Fight, where Golden Axe, obviously, at the time was something completely different as far as theme went. You know what I mean? The whole Conan the Barbarian European, European Barbarian theme really sort of got me over like the gangland style of fighting seen in games like Double Dragon, obviously
more
Renegade.
into like fantasy type.
Yeah,
stuff.
no,
There was a lot of it round at the time, though, wasn't it, in the early 90s?
Yeah,
where I think the
well.
closest thing you had to Streets of Rage that was like a movie was like Warriors or something, wasn't it? Really,
and that's it. And well, Double Dragon and Renegade were inspired by Warriors. No?
Yeah, exactly.
You even see it in the characters and the way they dress and that. But anyway, as far as Streets of Rage goes, I always had the slight more appeal with Golden Axe. So Kev got Streets of Rage or Bare Knuckle at the time. I love the artwork in the book because I do love the colour artwork in these old Japanese manuals for Mega Drive and Saturn and that, but definitely Mega Drive, Super Nintendo stuff. It's just really nice to look through. I miss, if I just to add, I actually really do miss the days where you still get a packaged game that comes with a nice manual. But anyway, so at that time I played it and I enjoyed it, but I didn't become like a Streets of Rage fanatic that I would become later on. And like I say, we're definitely going to avoid talking about Streets of Rage 2 where possible, but I do have to mention it because it does
tie into your story.
It does tie massively into this tale. It wasn't until about a year, maybe 18 months later, that I had a different friend called Andy Clark, nice lad,
who's also been mentioned in the Crackdown
has been
episode.
mentioned, yeah, pit fighter.
Both Glenn's friends, the only ones he's got, has been
I don't have them
mentioned so far.
But Andy got into Streets of Rage in a big way, and he got 2 games at once. He got Streets of Rage 1 and 2 because 2 had just come out. I hadn't really followed 2 too much, but I'd seen a few screenshots in magazines back when it was still called Bare Knuckle 2. And it looked fantastic, obviously. And I was looking forward to at some point playing it, but at that time I'd just gotten Golden Axe 2, and I think I'd also heard rumours of a Golden Axe 3 coming out. Now I was crapping myself for that, you know.
Yeah.
But anyway, and I was playing Pit Fight at the time as well. But he got the two games, and he introduced me to Streets of Rage 2, and it did literally blow me away. You know, obviously again without going into too detail, fantastic, beautiful beat 'em up. It's literally timeless now, and surpasses Streets of Rage 1 in every way. But for that reason, it made us want to get the 2 games and just enjoy both of them for what they were. So I got Streets of Rage 1 and 2, and I would put just as much time into 1 as 2, because at that time, as I said, clearly 2 is the better game for multiple reasons, but 1's got a couple of little features here and there that 2 doesn't have, like the 2-player co-op moves, you know, and obviously there's a few differences in enemies and the levels and the music's different. So it's as much as 2 blows the first game out of the water, 1 is a very playable game.
If you were to take Streets of Rage 1 and have it standalone as its own game and it never received a sequel, which definitely would be sad times, it would still stand up today as a really good beat-em-up game, in my opinion.
In my opinion, I differ a little bit from Mark, because in my opinion, it would stand out as a decent footnote in history, but I think it would have been forgotten to some extent, because there's so many beat-em-ups, without mentioning Streets of Rage games, but there's so many beat-em-ups from other series that have far surpassed it, like as of like 2023, you know, and obviously many years before that. But because it set the foundation for an absolutely stunning landmark series, it's always worth mentioning. But like I say, I mean, I got into Streets of Rage 1 through Streets of Rage 2, so that's my take on that.
So just to, I mean, it's a fair story. I mean, to be honest, I remember it's the same for me, because you kind of showed me Streets 2 before Streets 1.
Yeah.
And I mean, wow. Stepping back to the first one, it was like a bit of a blow, but
yeah, and if you haven't played 1,
and I must admit mine this week, because I quite often pick up Streets 2 and even Bare Knuckle 3, not Streets 3 because that's crap,
which we'll get to at some point.
In a near future episode. Yeah. But I would always pick up Streets of Rage 2. No, but it's not as good as Bare Knuckle 3, and that's not as good as Streets of Rage 2,
which is true.
But yeah, I would always go back and I would always fire up Streets of Rage 2 or Streets of Rage Remake, which I think that'll be an episode.
Since you've mentioned that, mine, I would really like to do an episode on it at some point. I mean, just sorry to butt in, but I have to mention that Streets of Rage Remake, I mean, for me is
phenomenal.
It is, and it's probably on par with 4 in some ways. Bear in mind, this is a fan-made project that's being made.
I think it's better than
absolute
4.
heart. I mean, the love there for this, I mean, in every single aspect of that project. So again, without moving too far from what our discussions about today, if you haven't played Streets of Rage Remake, please look and download it. I mean, we're not shilling for them. It's a Spanish team. We're not shilling for this team at all, but the game is that well put together and is that much of a love letter to the series for the fans that year. And it's a free download. It's a free download. I mean, why wouldn't you? Once you've played it for 5 minutes, it might even cause you to not even play the older games again on Mega Drive, which which is sad, but it's that great. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. So what I was saying, I would never go back to Streets of Rage 1 and play that.
Yeah.
But this week, I wanted to play through it, with each character. We've just had a run through there in 2-player, so that we could use that for the YouTube video. And I must say, it's still a really enjoyable game. It's great fun to play through. I mean, what was it, 55 minutes? I think
we got just about an hour of great fun. We deliberately made it so that the bad ending was there, because I know there's videos of the bad ending on YouTube. I mean, the game's been played that much, but there's just not as many. So it's like, in case anybody don't know about that and they don't see the little sort of mini versus mode that Street Rage 1 gives you at the end, then it's just something. It's a bit fun. So we had a great time playing it again.
And yeah, I won, by the
way. I'll let him.
All right. But yeah, I think why don't we? Because you kind of touched a little bit on the presentation there versus like Final Fight. But why don't we talk about Streets of Rage and its presentation in general? I mean, I'll start off. Look, the graphics, like you said, the sprites aren't as big as like Final Fight, but they're fairly detailed.
The sprites are great. I mean, as I said, obviously at that time, I mean, with me personally, and
4 megabit cartridge as well.
Yeah, a 4 meg cartridge, which Final Fight wasn't of, I believe, right? But again, think of the material that you lost in Final Fight. Think of the fact that I didn't have a 2-player mode is such a blow. I mean, the game feels fantastic, sounds fantastic, but it loses like at least that one. I mean, you probably could have gone away with losing the character and losing the level, but losing the 2-player mode, I mean, which is what these games are all about,
Yeah.
So Streets of Rage beats on that.
That's it. Streets of Rage.
Hell, even Rival Turf beats it on that, which might be an article for one day.
Streets of Rage took what they did wrong with Final Fight, and improved it immensely straight away by putting the 2-player mode in and giving you 3 selectable characters that all play
very differently.
Yeah, well, different
and balanced though. That's what I like. I thought the 3 characters do play well enough that there's no one character that is crap.
I struggle to pick between Axel and Adam, because I really like both characters, but even Blaze has advantages in certain situations.
It's not a hardly pit fighter when it comes to 3 characters.
No.
It was if you remember that one.
The levels themselves, I mean, we'll probably get into each level a little bit more detail, but graphically wise, I mean, they're a bit plain in terms of like the amount of tiles and stuff used. But the first level, which is the opening level, looks great.
Well, the first level is iconic now, because I mean, you've even got like popular YouTubers who use the artwork in the backgrounds and that,
so Pine Pot,
I mean, I think the only an advantage again, I mean, and that must sound like I'm dissing Streets 1 here in this whole article, which is absolutely not meant to be the case, but I've got to say it. Streets 1, one of its only problems with its its level backgrounds, is that each level is just one contained scene, where Final Fight would sometimes have 3 different scenes, and they'd all be very different. They'd have different music and a different atmosphere, so it really broke up the game a bit. So where Streets' main flaw, again, being on a 4 megabit cartridge for what the game is as well, though, is that each level is one long linear string with
levels,
a couple of little features here and there. I mean, obviously the elevator level 7 is a bit different. Level 4 has holes in the bridges. Level 6 has some traps on that to avoid. But generally speaking, each level sticks to one single thing. And to be fair though, they don't outlast themselves. I mean, each level is roughly about 5 minutes. I mean, it's not like you're spending 15 minutes or half an hour. It's hardly DD Crew, is it, when it comes to like spending
one level,
like 15 minutes on one single level. I mean, we played that game, and that was a Sega beat 'em up, and that is a travesty for another day maybe. But it does get a bit samey though when each level doesn't have any differences. But obviously that would change in future games. But back to you, Mark.
Yeah, so I mean, let's say graphics are, I mean, for 1991. Fine, like they're
good for what they are. Yeah. I mean, I don't think they're great. I don't think the pop massively.
There's definitely plenty of colour in that.
Yeah, there's plenty of atmosphere. I mean, I think what I like as well, I mean, levels like level 2, for example, they didn't need to do this. You've got a wind blowing, so you've clearly got like crisp packets and newspapers blowing around the background.
Level 3, you've got bits of rain.
You've got the cans rolling across the floors in level 3 and that, and the surf and everything. I mean, you do expect some animation in these backgrounds anyway by 1991. I mean. And on a 16-bit console, but it's done well, and it does give the backgrounds a bit of light.
There's some parallax scrolling in there as well.
Nice simple parallax scrolling. It's not outstanding, but it's good, and it does what it needs to do, I would say. I mean, generally speaking, the backgrounds are more lively than Golden Axe, which has very little to no animation on the Mega Drive version.
But you've got elevation
Slightly
changes and that in Golden Axe, which adds to the
We might compare a couple of things here to Golden Axe because they are on the same hardware, and apparently, going by what I've read, they're running on the same engine.
That could make sense. I might have to look into that. Actually, that's an interesting one. But music-wise, I mean, I always
words can't describe.
Yeah, I always thought that the music didn't compare at all to Streets 2. But to be honest, I quite enjoy some of the tracks on Streets 1. Like
some tracks are fine, better than some tracks in Streets 2. Generally speaking, Streets 2's music there's a lot more of it for a start, and they are amazing. But Streets 1's got some extremely toe tapping tunes. You can literally it will get in your head. There's a few earworms there. Like
I think Yuzo Koshibo, he obviously set out with a plan to have like a modern era music, like dance style music, techno music in there, and he accomplished what he set out for.
That's what they went for at the time, wasn't it? That's what they've deliberately gone for. And it just works within the game's world. I think it just makes the game cool. For me, and I mean, I know some might not agree because it wasn't seen as cool at the time, but if you think about Wipeout for a second, like the Wipeout series, I mean, obviously, when I mention Wipeout, some people will just shit themselves.
PlayStation,
because classics, But many will say like Wipeout was one of the first games, and obviously that was 1995. But one of the first games that actually became cool because of the music and that. I mean, nightclubs were playing Wipeout, PlayStation consoles with Wipeout. People were getting soundtrack CDs, and I agree. I mean, definitely as far as European, UK, English music, for soundtracks for games go, they were just fantastic. But I still think if it was a game before Wipeout that could be memorable for its music, not just for its music, but for its music, would be Streets of Rage and Streets of Rage 2.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Obviously to a very slight degree 3, but that again, that's another story for another day.
Yeah.
3's music style is very different.
It is.
But definitely the first two games, I would say the soundtracks were great, which is cool. I remember looking in a Japanese magazine and seeing soundtrack CDs for these games, which was unheard of at the time, back in 91, 92, to see actual soundtrack CDs where you might have paid a tenner for.
I know.
And some of them had remixed tracks on, and I mean, the work that gone into the soundtrack proved that people like listening to them. I don't remember seeing a Final Fight soundtrack.
No, you're right. What do you make of the sound effects? Because I'll be honest, I think they're just passable. In Streets of Rage 1.
Sound effects are decent in the first game. Some sounds don't sound like they fit at all.
Yeah, like when you take a hit, it's like
it's a funny, strange. It doesn't make sense at all. I mean, again, with the Final Fight comparison, that's got way better sound effects. I mean, in voices as well. But obviously, you're sampling a lot of these down from an original CPS1 arcade PCB. So
and the SNES had better hardware.
It did for the sound. Anyway. So you have got like that crutch basically where Streets of Rage didn't. But I mean, they're not horrible to listen to. They're just there. I mean, the voices I thought of the enemies were a little bit odd and a bit scratchy and that, but it's passable. The sound effects are passable. It's not something that would make or break a game. And like I said, if you were looking at the soundtrack as a whole, which obviously includes the music and the sound effects, I'd pretty much say that the sound effects didn't really knock a point. If we had a separate category for soundtrack, they wouldn't knock a point off.
No, I wouldn't. No.
It wouldn't be a big enough deal to.
Like I say, I think they're passable, they're adequate, they do the job. It's hard to not compare to the second one that has much better
which
sound effects.
Has absolutely fantastic sounds.
To compare, like we said, with Wood against Final Fight and the SNES, that sounds a lot better.
Yeah, definitely.
In terms of sound effects, not music. And for me, well, you might.
Even though I quite like the music.
I was going to say, I know you do.
But it's a very different type of style of music anyway.
It's very much Capcom early days CPS one, isn't it?
Yeah, and I mean people do like that, because I mean, again, we sound like we're moving off here, but obviously, Final Fight's music would stretch on into games like Street Fighter 2, so you can see where the influences from, So, and obviously, Final Fight nearly ended up being a Street Fighter game, didn't it?
It did, yeah. Controls in this game, fairly simple. You've got a special move button, which is typically button E on your Mega Drive / Genesis pad. That fires like a smart bomb as such, where you get support from a police buddy.
Yep. Acts as like a Golden Axe style magic effect, which simply hurts everything on the screen and really hurts everything on the screen. It's extremely useful. In fact, it's so useful that if you accidentally tickle that A button during a mat, like during the middle of a round, you'll end up crying your eyes out, because it'll destroy every basic enemy straight away, when really you should be keeping it for the bosses. Now, not that the bosses are generally always hard, but if you were playing on a harder mode, like harder above, you would want to keep that special move for them. But you only get one per level or per life as well.
Yeah, one per life. Player 1, player 2 actually have a different
effect,
different backup move, don't they? Because player 1, the police car comes up, fires a bazooka.
In seconds a cannon, like
it's like a minigun type cannon. And the best thing about it is as well, the guy, your backup buddy, is probably the greatest shot of all time in any video game, because he can hit them anywhere,
even on the elevator,
and not damage you.
Even
on an elevator at the top of a high rise.
You can't get it into a HQ though. You can't get it into a building.
So unfortunately, you can't use your smart bombs on level 8, which means you've actually got to beat the bosses up.
Yeah.
But no, button B's attack, which is typically punch.
Yeah, and you've got a simple combination as usual. You cycle through just like Final Fight. Every character has their own. If you touch an enemy, you grapple them, just like Final Fight. But the great thing of Street to Rage 1 over Final Fight is that you don't just throw the enemy or knee them or headbutt them, however you would do in Final Fight 1. You've got 2 further grapple attacks, as in a backwards throw, or you can press the jump button, jump over them, vault over them, and then do a backdrop as well. So you've got 2 possible
like a
finishes.
Simplex,
that gets developed in future games as well further. But it's nice to see you've got... Final Fight does let you throw them forwards or backwards, which is extremely useful, mind. It is, depending on the situation. But it's nice to have 2 different moves instead. And when you backdrop the enemy, it still use that to hit enemies that are behind them. And also, it works in a similar way, but just means you've got an extra layer of combat to it.
Yeah, the C button, just to finish off the controls, that's just your jump button, which you can do a jumping attack from as well.
But a nice thing which you can do in Street Rage 1, which you cannot do in Street Rage 2, is you can guide your jumps. If you don't actually press the attack button, you can press the jump button, and you can still move your jump backwards or forwards, which does have a little bit of bearing sometimes when you need a bit of control before you actually do your jumping attack. Once you've done the jumping attack, your position's fixed. The only negative about the jumping attacks in Street Rage, which is a step back from Fan Fight actually, is that each character only has one type of jumping attack. So Axel does a flying knee, but we'll get into that in characters properly anyway. Blaze has her own move, and Adam has his own move, where Final Fight, obviously, every character had 2, because they also had a down.
It's like a stun attack.
Yeah, you could jump and press down and attack. And for Cody and Guy, anyway, they'd do a knee drop, which would stop them in place. And you could combine that into a actual flying kick and get 2 hit. Hagar would do a splash attack, which still knock them down straight away. But like I say, so that was the only real step back in the combat system of Street Rage 1, and that each character only has 1 jump attack. But to be fair, it's not a big problem, and what you've got is enough, basically.
You don't miss it as such.
No.
To be fair, the moveset's pretty sparse.
You've got your back attack as well.
You've got your back attack where you press B and C together. Like I said, the moveset is sparse, but it doesn't matter. It's enjoyable anyway.
On par with Final Fight, because that doesn't have a back attack.
Yeah, true.
Final Fight doesn't have the which is very useful, isn't it? Which
we'll
get to at some point.
Aye. Actually, before we just move into like maybe the enemies or some animation. There's not a lot of animation.
Simple, yeah. It's about on par with Golden Axe, in my opinion. Again, going back to the size of the cart and the
I was going to say it's probably cart restrictions. Yeah,
it's not a problem, but to go completely against what I said at the start of the video and actually mention Final Fight Arcade. And again, it's not fair, but if you were playing the arcade game Final Fight, the animation is absolutely amazing. The amount of frames which cannot make it into the SNES version at all. So if you've been playing that in the arcade and went to Street Rage and Mega Drive, you would notice the difference. But it doesn't affect gameplay at all.
We need to stop talking about Final Fight, otherwise there won't be a Final Fight episode in the future, because we'll have said it all in this episode. Jesus. We'll find something else to talk about Final Fight. But so let's get into let's get into the characters first. So we've got the 3 heroes. We've got, is it Blaze Fielding, Axel Stone, and Adam Hunter. That's right. Yeah. So Adam's is he still a policeman, isn't he, in Street Rage 1?
I think all 3 of them have left. Actually, remember right?
But, I think that's right. I think all 3 have handed in the badges as such. Yeah.
In disgust, because of the corruption within the force and that, where there's still only a small amount of good cops left, including the guy who has the bazooka and the other one who has the
it is
Gatling gun.
We've actually skipped over the plot. So just to thinly give you an idea of the plot, in case you've never played Streets of Rage, which I hope that's not the case, but yeah. So the evil Mr. X, who's got a crime syndicate, has taken over the city, corrupted most of the police force, things like that. And basically, he's just a big time arsehole, isn't he?
Yeah, he's just up for controlling the city.
Yeah.
Wants everything his way. He's like basically like a mayor who, well, he's like a mayor. He is a mayor. He's probably pretty much a mayor, as in our mayors.
Sitting in his big penthouse suite,
Yeah,
smoking a big
smoking
fat
his
cigar
big
with his
fat-
machine
big
gun
fatty,
by
aye.
his side.
Aye.
And the basically our three heroes have had enough of his bullshit and want to kill him.
Yeah.
So that's
Take
fair
down the
enough.
syndicate, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. There's probably quite a few people in Sunderland feel the same way.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah. So the three heroes, like I said before, they're all controlled with the same moves typically, but the moves vary slightly in how they are and their effectiveness.
Yeah, they all have their own variation on the throws, their basic combos, back attack, jump attack, and well, as I say, stats as well. So I mean, you know, the good thing about Streets of Rage I found though, and I did mention it earlier, but I find all three characters to be balanced enough that you can have a lot of fun with either one of them. I tend to pick Adam myself because when I started out, I'd always play Axel, as I think just about everyone did. But I started to find little advantages with Adam. Like I really like his range. Like he's considered the slower character, but he's not slow to the point where like he's like unplayably slow and it affects you. So
yeah,
he's
barely...
quick enough to still have to enjoy. His punches are fast. I really like his jump kick because it's a nice long range kick that hits stuff from afar.
His range on his punch is huge, you know.
It's fantastic. His back attack is a sort of backwards jump kick, which again is very effective and has a bit of range to it. And his throws, his throws are pretty vanilla, but they do what they need to do and they're hard hitting. So I like the character. Blaze I play with least, but only just. It's not because I'm a misogynist, because if it came to Bare Knuckle 3, I play as Blaze all the time, but that, again, story for another day. But Blaze in Streets of Rage 1 plays really well, but I tend to, as I say, play with either the two male characters. It's her jump kick for me, actually, I find not as good, because she does basically a sort of roundhouse in the sky, and so it takes for a second to actually come out, basically, for the frames to be effective. So as much as it's quite long range, it's not as good as Adam's, in my opinion. A punch combo is as good as can be. Looks great. She's got the same set of throws as well. Her back attack is a sort of half spin kick backwards, which is quicker than Adam's and hits a bit of range as well. So again, she's good fun. She's just like, I've got my preferences. That's what's down now. Axel is a very fast punch combo. His jump kick actually again isn't my favourite, because he does a jumping knee, and it's quite short range, and it struggles against certain enemies, including certain bosses like the sisters. Now having an effective jump kick can be quite effective against fighting them too, especially in my opinion. And he doesn't have that tool against them, so it does knock him a bit. His back attack is a very fast but quite short range back fist punch. So it hits quick, but it's got quite a short range compared to the two characters. But again, it's as effective as you need it to be.
I think damage-wise, don't they all kind of do like similar damage?
I think
anyway?
they do. I think I've never really looked into it, but it looks like they all do.
Yeah, I can't think of any point like this week's I've played through with all three characters. I don't think there was any character that was really strong. Maybe Blaze was a bit weaker with her attacks.
Possibly Adam is stronger.
Adam might be stronger. There might be a slight variation, but it's difficult to tell.
All three characters have their, which I didn't mention, all three characters have their close, their grapple combo as well. So getting hold of an enemy means I believe it's the same for all three characters. A couple of knees, 3 knee strikes. Generally what you'll do is you'll strike them twice, and then either throw them or vault over them and do a backflip. And that's, as I said, quite a simple combo, quite a simple combat system, nothing too much for it. But remember, it is 1991. This is before like the later Capcom arcade games where they were starting to introduce Street Fighter style motions, Street Fighter 2 style movement motions for specials and that. So, it's exactly what you'd need at the time. And to be fair, to compare it against an obscure Sega arcade game called Riot City, which came out in 1991 as well, which I personally haven't a problem with, but it's like a scaled back Final Fight. But Streets of Rage 1 on the Mega Drive has a slightly more complex fighting system than that game in the arcade. So
yeah.
And that's the same year, so you kind of complain.
Now, to complement the your typical moves that you've got, there's also weapons scattered throughout the levels as well.
There's a lot.
You've got bottles, which your first attack smashes the bottle, then you use it like
cool.
a knife.
That's a kind of touch.
You've also got knives in there, which
Yeah.
you can use as a stabbing weapon, or you can throw them.
Yeah.
You've got the pipe, lead pipe.
Doesn't Axel have a preference over stabbing weapons, or is that on just Street Rage 2?
I think that's 2, yeah.
It is just 2, isn't it? Where he can throw them or stab them, or is it 3?
No, I think it's 3 actually.
Aye.
Yeah, I think that's 3.
Or are we not talking about Cody on 5? Actually, is it a different character?
No, I think it is. I think it's Street 3.
I can't remember fan now.
But there's a lead pipe. You've got the baseball bat, which is my preferred weapon.
Very satisfying.
And last but not least, the pepper shaker.
Yeah,
and you're probably thinking, what the shit?
It works, doesn't it?
But yeah, so if you've never played Street Rage before, you've got a pepper shaker, and you throw the pepper shaker at the enemy, and he starts coughing. And while he's coughing, obviously you can kick the crap out of him, which is, it's fair enough. Okay, it comes in useful sometimes, doesn't it? So
yeah, but it's not useless. I said you can the thing about the pepper shaker is, and all the developers have used the heads a bit because they could have just had it so it stuns the enemy that it hit. But if you've got 3 or 4 enemies together, it'll stun them all. I think it works on bosses as well. I'm sure I've had Bongo in a coffin fit once as well.
It would have been funnier if it had just been a pepper shaker that you chucked at someone and it just hurt them and didn't actually do anything.
Or a bit more graphic like Vendetta.
Oh yeah, well yeah, aye. But so enemies. I mean, there's not many normal enemies in this game.
Only 5 types.
Yeah, and I mean, in my opinion,
more bosses than regular enemies.
In my opinion, the hardest normal enemy in the game is Galcia. He's an absolute git. He just runs in and punches you so fast.
Well, he's quite versatile as a bad guy and all the way. I mean, you've got a couple of variations on the Galcias.
He's the most basic enemy, the first enemy you meet in the game.
He punches you as soon as you start.
You start the game and you get fisted straight in the face if you're not quick enough.
But the Galcias come in I mean, every single enemy in Street Rage, including the bosses as well, most of the bosses, come in a couple of different colour variations, 3 or 4 variations.
Yeah.
And they do denote like difficulty, I mean, they're not broken down in the manual properly, and as far as I know, there's no solid source to tell you who's stronger than others, but generally,
you can tell.
You meet one colour of an enemy, and then later on, you meet a different colour and be stronger, but that's not a big deal. You've got your Galcias, which are your base enemy, and Galcia is a pretty much simple-looking thug. I mean, looks like he's dressed in leathers with orange hair, usually. That's the base-coloured one anyway, the green one, or blue, whichever he is. They've got a couple of moves, I mean, punch you, basically. They're pretty simple stuff. His main strength though is his use of knives, and I mean, they actually do come in 2 separate variations where if they've got knives, they'll either stab or throw them at you, or they'll come in a variation where they've got the knife basically aiming at you at waist level, and they'll just charge at you, and they'll do that constantly till you kill them.
Aye, it can be super annoying.
They're extremely lethal in a group of enemies, especially when you've got bosses on the screen and all. So. Not a very pleasant enemy when he's in that variation. But again, they're quite lethal in their own way, so you need to get stuck into them as soon as you see them. Don't let them go.
You've got Y signal, which is he likes to. He's got 2 moves really. Hasn't he? He's got a throw.
He's throw, and he's got his
sliding attack. Yeah.
In this game, he doesn't actually punch you in does he? In this version,
no, he doesn't. But
that doesn't come later.
Again, as well, just as a little tip, if you don't know, which I hope you would, but if you do get thrown by an enemy, if you push up and jump at the same time, you will land on your feet, and you'll mitigate any damage from the throw, which is just a nice little thing that you do. Eventually, it just becomes routine, doesn't it?
Nature,
as soon as someone grabs you, you're like, up and jump. Yeah, I'll land on my feet, and you feel good about it, and then go and punch them in the face.
I think Signal looks far too much like 2P and J though from that other fighting game that we've been talking about. It looks like they look at them, look at those characters, and went, we can just rip them because they're far too close to them. They fight differently enough, apart from obviously Streets 2 where he develops the back fist.
Yeah,
but they've deliberately ripped those characters, but made them fight differently so that they wouldn't get compared. But the good thing about Signal as well is he's a sneak character. Like it says, he has 2 moves. None of them are like base moves, as I'd call them. They're like, because he's got a throw and because he's got a slide kick, it's almost like he's a bad guy that only has special moves.
He doesn't telegraph them either.
And
so you're right. He slides at you instantly. Like, oh shit!
This is as well. Just while we're talking about the enemies as a whole, all 5 types, just to like put them into a group as a whole here. Even though there's only a small amount in Street Rage, though, they are very good in that every single one does fight completely different from the next. So they complement each other in a group, but you never have 2 types that fight similar, like in a similar way.
Yeah.
So yeah, a little bit lighter than I would have thought. in the base enemy roster, but they're all so diverse that when you see one and you know how that character fights, you know instantly how to tackle them. Unless you've got like a group, and that's Street Rage can have a ton of sprites on.
Oh yeah, it is. I mean, I think I've seen probably 6 or 7 on top of your 2 players at the same time. You know, there's not bad like in terms of sprites.
Well, the third enemy type, right, is Nora. Nora's great because she gets to be in just about every single game, and even has an amazing introduction in Street Rage 4. She's the female of the group. She's her profession is she's actually a stripper, so that's interesting to know.
She whips you, doesn't she? She likes her whip.
She's basically a dominatrix. I mean, to be fair, she only has 1 attack, and that's just to whip you, but the whip knocks you down straight away. So she's extremely irritating because there'll be a group of enemies, and then she'll just appear. She'll just run up to you and just whip you once, and you're on the floor, and you've lost a chunk of enemy. So very simple move set, if you can call it a set, but she's as lethal as the others in her own way. She has a couple of unusual characteristics. So again, she appears in a few different colours as well with different strengths. But again, 2 very different varieties of Nora that you don't know that you're fighting. There's the regular variety where you can literally just beat the crap out of them and throw them about and think nothing of it. But there's a second variety whereby just punching her once will cause her to go down on her knees and scream, basically begging for her life, yeah. And I mean, if you stand right next to her, she will stay on her knees for as long as it takes. You need to move away. Don't get any ideas when I mentioned staying on her knees either. You need to move away and turn your back to her, basically, and she'll get back up. But then you need to be grappling her because any other tackle, just pull her down on her knees. Now, what I've never really worked out is if that actually hurts her, which it probably does. But again, you're talking about like a single punch's worth of damage.
You could be there a week trying to
You could be there, yeah. And bear in mind, you might not be fighting this character by herself. She'll be with a group of others. Oftentimes, she'll be in with a group of other Noras who don't get down on the knees, basically, you know, when you
there's no difference in terms of colours or anything. They look the same. The next enemy you've got, is it Hakuo?
How I always pronounce it Hakuo. However you pronounce it, but that's the best I can say.
Yeah. He's basically a karate master, isn't he? So
group,
he'll flip around the screen and then he'll jump in with like a stepping side kick type thing. And he you know, sometimes he's just a little bit hard to get a hold of. He's like all over the shop.
I find that one of the good ways to fight them is just literally when you've got a group with them on the one side of you, just punch as fast as you can and often jump into your fists, then go in and try and grapple them and throw them at each other. So, but deadly enemy though as well. And again, the higher level colours actually take quite a bit of damage and can dish it as well.
The last of the normal enemies is Jack, who is by far the most.
He looks cool.
Oh, he's annoying.
He looks cool.
Yeah.
Apparently he's a circus performer, going by what I'm reading, but Jack actually turns up again in Street Rage 2 as a very different looking and behaving enemy, but again,
much more fun to fight.
Definitely, he's a middle boss as well, and then he can be quite enjoyable and quite tough. But this Jack, he again comes in a few different colours, but he also comes again in 2 varieties, like with obviously a couple of the previous enemies do. One type of Jack can be juggling knives, isn't it?
Axes.
Axes, sorry man. He's juggling axes. Now, he's the least dangerous of the 2 because obviously if you punch in his directions, he's juggling his axes, you can make him drop them. If he throws his axes, you can knock them out of the air. And you can grapple him as normal. He's jumping around. He's like doing these short little leaps around the area. He moves very, very strangely, unlike any other enemy in the game. But if you approach him as normal, you can grapple him as normal. The second type, he's juggling firebrands. And he attacks in exactly the same way as the first variety, but trying to touch him while he's juggling the firebrands will actually get you damaged and burnt. So to get him, you have to punch him enough times, punch in his direction enough time to make him drop all these firebrands, and then you can grab him. So Street Rage doesn't have a true middle boss enemy. I mean, apart from the actual bosses, which we'll get to, but it doesn't have like a strict sort of middle boss character that you'll see on the screen and go and know that you've got a bit of a fight on your hand, like Andrea, for example, on Final Fight. But Jack is probably the closest you get to it. But the nasty thing about Jack is sometimes you'll get about 4 or 5 of them at once, just like the other enemies. So I wouldn't be too embarrassed at you if you just gave up the ghost and pressed A and brought that car out. Because it's the only time during in-game where I'd maybe think about doing it. There's a couple of spots on level 5, the cruise ship, where especially in the harder difficulties, but where it would probably be some advantage to using that, like, because you will get killed.
Should we should we maybe explain the levels, and as we're doing them, we can do the bosses?
Yeah, why not? Why not? I'll let you start with level 1, mate.
So yeah, round 1 kicks off great with, in my opinion, probably the most colourful and flashy level of the game, which is the city streets. I'm sure it's probably the level that everyone most remembers on Streets of Rage 1. Streets of Rage 2 actually looks similar as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it's
much amped up, basically.
With some vertical and movement as well. No?
Yeah, so so it's just walk left to right, basically. You've got a few telephone boxes and stuff that you can smash that has like food in and weapons in and stuff like that. You don't fight. I think you only fight probably just Galcias and signals on this level, don't you?
There's at least a couple of Noras as well.
Yes, yeah, there is.
They come from the gates, don't they? From the doors.
Yeah.
Doors open up and they pop out. Yeah.
And then you come to the end of the level. It's only a couple of minutes long. You'll fight Antonio, who was the boomerang wielding guy.
I think he's a sailor. He looks like a sailor.
Doesn't he?
Dodgy. Oh, he's French.
He's all in like denim, isn't he? Or something.
Strange, weird little glasses and that as well.
But he's easy.
He's a warm-up boss, yeah.
He chucks his boomerang. It is guided, so if it hits you, if it's thrown, it'll come back.
His kick's more lethal, isn't it?
Aye, it is, yeah.
That does a lot of damage.
It's easy. You can approach him from above and below and grab him quite easily, and give him a combo and throw him. Yeah. It only takes a few to kill him. That's him done. Do you want to do the most boring level?
Yeah, sure. Why not? Level 2 is the inner city level. It's basically like a slum. Mark's right. It is quite boring, I think. There's not a lot going on. Even the music is a little bit.
I was going to say the music.
It's probably one of the dullest tracks. It's not a bad track. It's just probably one of the dullest tracks of a great set of tracks. It doesn't change much from level 1. You've still got a flat level going from left to right. A few weapons the same. You don't have any new enemies at this point. I don't think. I'm pretty sure Hakuro doesn't pop up yet. Definitely no Jax. So you're still fighting the same 3 characters that you were fighting in the first level. It's okay though. It's still early in the game. Same pickups. Boss of this level though is interesting. In fact, he's very interesting. He's a character called Souther, and he's very memorable because he's got claws on his hands.
Freddy Krueger. Gloves.
Basically, he's Freddy. Yeah, he's like obviously based on Freddy Krueger. He's got 2 of these clawed gloves. He's still a tall character like Antonio was, but he is quite a bit tougher if you don't know how to fight him because he's the first of the bosses that has a little bit of nuance to his movement. Yeah. He attacks with a nasty double claw attack, which does massive damage. But if you turn your back on him or you try to jump at him, he does he moves at super speed. So you have to be careful to face him at all times and try and approach him from above as well.
Yeah.
If you approach him from below to grab him, which normally works on just about every other character and boss in the game, he will still be able to attack you. He'll get you with the clawed attack. So to start this fight, you really want to be at the very top of the screen and allow him to appear and then draw him towards you by turning your back on him and then turning towards him at the last minute to try and grab him and attack him. Once you've got him down on the floor, bosses in Street Rage 1 don't have any invincibility frames between knockdowns. So you can literally stand over him and grapple him again and just chuck him around the level. But that initial attack, though, is the one that sometimes gets players. So he's a memorable boss, more memorable than Antonio.
His appearance, yeah.
And he would go on to appear in later games in the series, but in a complete redesign. But a poor level, quite a weak level in my opinion, but a really, really memorable, exciting boss. What about you, Mark, for level 3? The big
level 3, you've got the beachfront, haven't you? Which is, it's again quite a nice, colourful level. Actually, you've got the waves lapping at your feet. Some good music. Does Hakuro?
Yep, definitely appears in this level. Yeah, there's quite a lot of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember the sprite flicker when there's a lot of them in the
rain. Yes. You do get a bit of sprite flicker on this level when there's quite a lot show up and the rain's coming down and stuff like that.
Yeah, which looks great with the tune. And you've got the cans rolling across the floor. It's a probably quite an atmospheric level, for Street Rage on the Mega Drive.
Again, just left to right, a few minutes, and then you come up against the boss of this level, which is
Abadeed.
That's right. Who's the big wrestling guy, and he basically he's got 2 moves. He runs at you and punches you, or he can grab you and throw you.
Which we've only just discovered. I don't remember ever seeing him do this move, and he did it today on me.
Yeah.
I kept thinking he just had the charge, and then suddenly he comes out with a throw. He probably has done it back in the day, but it seems to be so rare that it comes out that I just don't remember being able to do this throw. So, a throw, grapple attack.
Thinking about the timing, we're probably about 25 minutes into this podcast now, and I think level 3 was probably about 15 minutes into our playthrough at the most. So it'll have already happened. So you'll have already seen it happen.
Yeah.
And it's probably the only time I've ever seen it happen, if I'm honest, but it's recorded now. But
he's another one when you've got to be careful with, haven't you?
you have, yeah. I think that the best way to get him, I mean, you can stand where you are and let him run at you, and generally your punch catches him, but you're not going to kill him quickly like that. You're best off trying to knock him down with a flying kick and then stand next to him and grab him as he stands up.
Yeah.
And then you can have your way, and make sure you throw him, because he flies really, really, really far across the screen and bounces.
What Martin, what I need to add as well, which we have discussed before the podcast, is that the bosses in Streets of Rage aren't really that tough in general, because unlike, say, again, Final Fight, they don't tend to have a varied attack pattern where there's a few different moves and a few different styles where you go pick up on. They tend to stick to like a very singular attack strategy. Like most of the bosses have a single move, at 2 at most, you know. Like I say, for example, like Souther, who we've just talked about, even Aberdeen here, where they'll pretty much just keep doing that one form of movement until you kill them or they kill you. So once you understand how to beat them, it's quite easy.
Yeah, but the main complexity in the patterns is
what makes Street of Rage's bosses tougher is the fact that you've got mooks in the level, and normally it's just one, a single Galcia. It's always a Galcia. It's never, and it's always like a base level Galcia and all. Obviously, when you kill him, another one comes on, so there's always a single Galcia present. But it's absolutely amazing how much that makes a difference to the game. You can be beaten on, you can be wheeling on one of the bosses, and this Galcia will just whack you in the back of the head. The next thing you know, the boss gets you one of his attacks, which does a lot more damage, and you're on the floor. And it's like, wait, I've got to use the car special now, otherwise I'm going to get killed by one Galcia.
Yeah.
Even in two-player mode, I found that you'd still get one mook, just one popping up to help the 2 bosses, because you fight 2 at once in 2-player mode in most bosses, apart from Mr. X. And it's amazing how that one enemy can make such a difference. Anyway, Mark, you were talking about Aberdeen.
I think I pretty much said everything. Yeah, he's fit. He's once you know how to kill him, he's straightforward, isn't he?
Which hands over to me.
Yeah,
and
next
talks
level.
about probably my favourite boss of Street Rage one, actually. That's Bongo. Bongo appears on the bridge. Now, not just the fact that he's called Bongo, and he looks funny because he's a big fat man, and I'm not fattest, or whatever you want to call it now. I'm not fat phobic, you know, in case that's a problem.
Sizest.
There's that. Bongo is a big Asian man, apparently, and going by his bio, which I have read, and he has a single attack that we know of. Unless he pops out with something new one of these days, he simply charges across the screen, breathing fire. Now, he doesn't charge in a straight line. He will charge directly towards you. So if you've got 2 bongos on screen in a 2-player game, it can get quite confusing, because you forget which one's going for who, and they can interchange as well. So you could have 2 going for 1 player, or 1 player getting nobody going for them at all. Bongo exemplifies what I've just mentioned about like the attack patterns. If you're fighting in a 1-player game, if you're fighting a single Bongo, you could kill him in seconds without any problems at all, because he always appears at the top of the screen in a certain way. And the way Street Rage works, you can hit enemies off screen when they're only so far off, but Bongo appears on screen enough that you can actually hit him as soon as he appears. So you can stand next to where he appears and just start whacking him straight away. But because you'll have a Galcia come up behind you as well and start hitting you, you're stuffed. You've got to be really careful. And if you break off your attack to hit the Galcia, that'll give Bongo enough time to do his fire breath move and charge at you. But I mean, if you can get him by himself a bit, he is very easy. You just need to, if he's going past you when you're down near the bottom of the screen, just grab him. Be careful though, because if you grab him from behind, whatever you do, don't try and slam him, because he's so heavy that he'll hurt you really badly. So that could be considered his second attack, if you want to call it that. The same as if you grab him from the front and you try to throw him. But what you do is grab him, knee him twice, let go of him, grab him again, knee him twice, add, repeat, just seriously, until he dies.
Or just keep punching him.
You could, yeah.
Don't combo him, just punch twice, stop, punch again, and so on.
Going back to the way the boss invincibility works, which it isn't. Obviously, if you knock him down, you can keep wheeling on him as soon as he gets back up again. He'll not have time to breathe fire on you. But if you knock him off screen, he's going to come at you again. So, in my opinion, a very predictable boss who can be tough depending on the circumstances, or can be probably even easier than Antonio. But he looks cool, and again, he's a boss who did get to come back in the future in a very very interesting makeover, which has become quite iconic in the Streets of Rage universe. But anyway,
yeah,
to level
5,
level 6,
round 5. Sorry. So yeah, round 5 you're on board the ship. This level, that it just throws tons of weaker enemies at you quite often, doesn't it? It does it a few times throughout the level.
It's a hard level. It's the first level I
yeah.
really started to find hard, to be honest, because you get the first mini bosses as well with Aberdeen's coming back.
Yes, you do.
You get
Yeah,
at least 1 for 1 play and 2 for 2 play, but separate locations. So
yeah,
I thought it was a bit extra in the mix.
So you see Aberdeen again, who was the boss of round 3. But yeah, it's again just left to right, nothing special. You know, you smash a few ship vents, which are strangely in the middle of
good tune in this level
nowhere.
as well. Really good tune.
Yeah, it is. And then to finish off, you fight who I've been calling Blazer's sisters for God knows
years,
how long.
forever, for the date start. We've got that over Mean Machines magazine, you know.
Yeah. I can imagine. But was it Ohimi and Yasha?
Yeah, or Mona and Lisa, as they're sometimes called.
Mona and Lisa.
I think people use the Streets Rage 3 names because there's 2 characters which appear to either be these characters or similar. I think it is actually meant to be them. The reason being was the thing about the Blazer sisters, as we call them, was still like the nickname that because they use Blazer's sprite. So it actually makes them the most versatile bosses in the game. Because although they don't have the full move set of Blaze, they've got more moves than any of the bosses in the game. And well, I'll let you discuss this because you've got you've got the strategy as well.
So I mean, the best way to fight Blazer's sisters in one player, it's a little bit easier, I must admit.
Yeah.
Because if you can get in between them, one of the sisters will always, if you've got your back to them, one of the sisters will always walk towards you.
Yeah, they do fight differently.
And you can use if you've got your timing right, you can use your back attack to take that sister out. And at the same time, keep your eye on the other one and move up and down compared to where her jumping attack's going to land. And you can easily grab her and, you know, knock her down. Try not to throw her behind you, because then you've got them both on one side again.
Yeah.
You're best off staying in the middle of the two. And if you keep that up, generally you won't have a hard time fighting them. But they can be tricky to fight.
I've personally always found them to be the toughest of all 6 boss types. I
think Bongo's probably the hardest. He's a pain in the backside. I just never seem to catch him. Galcia always, like you say, smacks us in the back of the head.
That's where I always say, well, it's like outside influence in a way, isn't it? It's like if that character wasn't on the screen, you'd probably not. Blaze sisters don't have mooks, do they?
No.
And just as well, just answer an unasked question. You don't fight 4. You do just fight 2.
Yeah, you do fight
2 player mode.
You want to do the best level? Probably, I think it's probably your favourite level, is it?
Well, we've got the factory next.
Oh, sorry, yes.
We've got the factory level.
Which I hear.
Now, the factory level actually feels a little bit like level 4 in some ways, and just the industrial style of it. The tune's even a bit similar. Now, I quite like this level. I mean, it always feels a little bit long for some reason, but still way more interesting than level 2, the inner city level. It's got a few traps, which you've got to avoid, but they hurt you and they hurt the enemies. They're quite easy to avoid, but the way the level's structured, plus with conveyor belts that move you into these traps, again, which affect you and the enemies, it does make it like a little bit nasty. I mean, nothing amazing to say about the actual level itself, but there isn't a new boss character either. It's an existing boss character, but the boss fight is still quite lethal. This time you fight 2 Southers, and that's in 1 player or 2 player, so it does. You probably are better off with 2 player in this level.
Yeah.
And I find because you've got 2 of them, best way I always fight these. I would probably use your special anyway if need be. If you're low on lives, definitely, but also stay at the top of the screen and draw each one towards you individually. Throw one, then throw the other, then move away and try and rinse and repeat if you want. But you probably will take 1 or 2 hits of these because, like I say, it's very difficult to be able to face one and not the other when you've got these 2 guys.
It can be quite a tough fight, yeah.
It's not the toughest fight, boss. Yeah, I mean it's up there, you know, because it's quite nasty. I think as well, we forgot to mention that this level does have a mini boss, and you'll fight Bongo, Mark's favourite boss.
Yes, you do. That's right.
I think in 2 player you fight 2 again as well. I think we did, didn't we?
We did. That's right. Yeah. So
it was pretty much like probably worse than fighting. Like fighting 2 of them is worse than fighting 2 Southers. Like I said, I stand by what I said about Bongo being easy in my opinion, but 2 is just a pain in the backside. Like over to you, Mark, for the freight elevator.
Yeah, so
the actual best level in the game.
Yeah, round 7's the freight elevator. This is basically I think is it 4 phases. So your elevator. Your elevator travels.
It's not about 6. I keep thinking it's more than 4. You know?
Let's settle on 5.
4.5.
Aye, 4.5. Your elevator travels up. Basically, you're traveling up Mr. X's freight elevator to his penthouse
level to the rest of them.
suite. and you're going up, and the elevator stops, and it gets flooded with a few waves of enemies each time, and it's pretty much every enemy, isn't it? All the normal enemies.
Yeah, you don't fight no middle bosses or even actual boss on this level, but all 5 main. In fact, there's no jacks. I think pretty sure there's no jacks.
Yeah, you might be right.
Yeah, but the other 4 types, yeah, you've got them, and they're coming at you thick and fast. But it's great because you can just grab them and hoist them off the edge of the elevator.
Yeah, throw them over the side of the elevator.
Just don't stand too close to the edge yourself. Now the elevator's enclosed, like it's got a wall, like it's got an actual
safety barrier.
Yeah, safety barrier. So you think you're safe, but if you do a flip, if you do like you flip over your enemy right near the edge of the area, you can actually still fall off.
Yeah,
or you try to throw them, but you try to backflip them, you still go over yourself as well. So just be wary of that, you know.
Yeah, but it's a good level. Let's say it stops maybe 4 or 5 times or whatever each time you fight a ton of enemies, and it's over pretty quick, isn't it? But it's just fast paced.
It's an excellent level, a great tune as well. You end up, if you've played long enough, you end up finding yourself trying to like throw the enemies to the beat, basically. So,
yeah.
You know, you try to get a little bit of a meta game going there. Like, it's quite fun.
You've got round 8, mate.
I've got one of my favourite levels. I love round 8. I love the tune as well. Very atmospheric level. This is the final level. It's a Syndicate headquarters. It's a big level as well. The crux of this level is that you're fighting all the bosses as well. So you've got all of the other previous bosses. You don't have a special move now.
Yeah, you've got a boss rush.
You've got the classic boss rush. A lot of games want to put in a boss rush. So the level itself doesn't change much. It is literally like it looks like the inside of a big mansion. You know, you've got like little tables flying towards you, and various sort of receptacles to smash through, and that which they give you your power ups and your weapons to pick up, and that you've got your 5 enemy types. All 5 types appear here in their strongest version, so nothing new there. You know, I said the only poor thing about Streets of Rage is enemy roster, like base enemy roster, is that with it being so small, it does blow its load pretty early on, but they're all fun, they're all good to fight, so I don't mind that. Let's say you fight all the bosses, so you've got Antonio first. They're all a different colour as well. I don't know if the health levels change. Not that it matters, because you'll kick the crap out of them pretty easily, generally. Then you've got Souther, a little bit further away down the level. Then comes Aberdeen, further again. Bongo again, and then you reach a big pair of double doors, and you'll fight the evil sisters again at this level. At this point, sorry, beat them, and you'll be able to punch your way through the door. And that's when you'll face the evil mastermind himself, Mr. X. And well, if you're playing in one player, fairly straightforward. I mean, you'll come into the level. He's sitting in a massive penthouse.
In his big throne.
Pretty much is the throne, isn't it?
Yeah.
And he'll call on a few mooks. He'll call on a few of these little boys and that, you know, to come and attack you. A couple of waves of them, and then he'll attack you himself. He's quite easy. Mr. X attacks in 2 ways. He's got his machine gun, which fires in it's not a 360 arc, because he can't fire it upwards. He fires...
It's 180, really.
It's a 180, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's a 180. Yeah. He fires in a 180 degree burst, like volley of fire at the bottom below him, like below the screen. So the higher up the screen he is, the more dangerous he is. Sometimes he does it a bit further down the screen, like halfway. So if you're above him, he'll not be able to hit you. The bullets don't do much damage, to be fair. They're more of an annoyance. His more dangerous attack is his machine gun butt, where he just charges across the screen quite quickly as well, and hits you with the back end of the gun, and that does a lot of damage, especially on the higher level. So don't worry about the bullets too much, which you can actually punch out of the air. But the damage is quite minimal, especially on the early levels. He's quite easy to beat, really. You can just chuck him around the room until he dies. That's pretty much the end of him. But I'll let Mark read the next bit, because it's probably one of the most interesting parts of the end game of Streets of Rage, where it would be.
Yeah, well, it depends. So
which would do show you in the video.
Yeah, so one of the nice twists I like about Streets of Rage, something I thought it did really well, in one player, because you didn't touch on this, but in one player, when you go in, Mr. X asks you if you'd like to join him, instead of fighting him. Now, in a bit of a cruel twist, if you say yes to join them, he sends you back to the industrial level.
Maybe that's where he wants you to be employed from, though. He wants you to work in the factory, work your way up, you know. You have to start somewhere, Mark. Come on.
Well, that's it, and you do. Effectively, you
work
your
factory,
way up,
you know,
literally up an elevator, back into the
there
penthouse. So you have to do all of level 6, 7, and 8 again before you come across Mr. X for the second time. And this time, if I remember rightly, he doesn't ask you if you want to join him or anything. This time, you just fight him and obviously kill him.
Gives you a promotion.
You get promoted once you kill them. You keep what you kill, basically. And if I remember rightly, don't you get the bad ending if you do that? You still get a bad ending, don't you?
No, if you say yes to Mr. X in one play and you do the 3 extra levels again, and then you face him the second time you beat him, you get the good ending. You've won the game. Yeah, right, I mean, you've done what you meant to do. Which I remember thinking at the time was odd, because obviously you'd think, well, you said yes originally.
Yeah, and you want to be the ruler.
Yeah, and so how couldn't you? So you've got that in you, if you want to call it, if you want to think that. Yeah. So maybe having the good ending in that point is actually kind of ominous if you think about it. You think you're actually evil deep down, and you maybe, even though like you're all smiles and everyone's happy in that, deep down you've got secret desires. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, definitely I remember playing through a couple of times and trying that little experiment, and you do get the good ending.
So now in 2-player, the way to do this is what we did today on the YouTube video.
Yeah.
So we you both go in, he'll ask you both the question. So you ask the question once, but you both get the option to answer.
Yeah.
So if one of you answers yes to joining him and one of you answers no to joining him, at that point you basically have your double dragon standoff.
Yeah, he's double dragon stands cool, eh?
Except
there was a negative to it, wasn't there?
There is. When we did it today,
didn't realise this.
We thought you would just get a full life,
and
then fight it out. Now it's not the first time we've done it, but last time was probably 20 years ago or something like. So we didn't actually remember. But yeah, so
you can literally go through all your credits, can't you? You can literally go, if you say
you can kill somebody, take all these lives away, and then continue and come back in the fight and just keep going.
Yeah.
Now obviously there's no point. So it was the first person to lose all the lives. Glenn had a lot less lives than me, it wasn't too difficult.
Could have knocked him really.
Yeah, of course. So anyway, if that happens and you win, Mr. X then asks you again if you still want to join them. Now, if you say no at this point, you get to fight him.
Which, yeah.
If you say yes, he sends you back to level 6, just like in 1-player mode.
Yeah.
So don't say yes, because that's daft, and you'll go back and have to fight everyone again, and all you'll be fighting for is a high score at this point. If you say no, you kill him, and you do get the bad ending where you're sitting in the chair and you laugh
different
at the
tune,
end.
Evil
yeah,
tunes,
it's like quite an ominous tune, that, isn't it? Yeah. But it's a nice little twist. Couple of different endings, you know, for a game from 1991.
And the thing is, as well, it was cool because you had to work. It's called the bad ending, but it's like it's a secret ending. Bad end, yeah.
Bad end.
Which could mean a few things, no? But it's interesting because if you didn't know how to get it, or I mean, it's not too hard to get. It's not like very difficult, but you obviously have to be wary what you're pressing and what you're doing, and before you go in, otherwise you might end up pressing the wrong thing. Because I'm pretty sure that if you say yes the second time round, after that 2-player battle, you'll do the 3 levels. You go back. I don't think you get the option again, just like the single player, which means you will not be saying. You'll say the good ending. You'll say the good. Oh, will you? Actually, that's interesting. Have we actually tried that? You know,
no.
That might be interesting for the future to try that and see. After fighting each other, the survivor obviously goes back to level 6, and just be maybe a little interesting experiment, unless it's already been done.
Somebody has done it. We'll be able to Google it and find out.
I don't think we have.
But then again, I'll probably quite happily have another playthrough. I have enjoyed it this week. But I think before we're jumping into maybe some spin-offs, because there's a few things we want to see. And sorry, not spin-offs, but conversions, really. Good one. Difficulty-wise, I honestly think Streets of Rage 1 is easy.
I believe it's quite easy. Yeah, it's up until normal, easy and normal. I mean, hard, I've beaten the game on hard without putting extra lives on. I think I've died in very hard or hardest.
Yeah.
Very hard, but either way. The hardest mode, I don't think I can do that.
You've got easy, normal, hard and hardest.
Yeah, there's hardly a Street Race 2 like Star Mania level, you know what I mean?
God,
and I mean, normal is quite easy. So I would say if you want to go in and get a fair challenge, probably play it at hard.
Hard, yeah.
You know, it shouldn't be solid. I mean, look, it shouldn't be solid.
Like I said, I hadn't really replayed Streets of Rage 1 because I'd just go straight to 2 or remake. Yeah. But the first playthrough I had this week, I finished it and I lost 1 continue and 1 life of my second continue. Yeah. And I thought that was a pretty good playthrough for not played it for 20 years properly. And bear in mind, it was coming back trying to learn some of the. I say patterns. They're not really patterns, but some of the best ways to beat some of the bosses again. That, you know, I mean, I only really had trouble with Bongo, if I'm honest.
Well, we both did today, but again, you can't. When you've got 2 on screen at once, it becomes chaotic.
Yeah.
So in single player, and that character personally, I think he's not that bad. Now, 2-player, all the bosses can be crazy. Even Antonio.
Conversions. Why don't you?
I'll lead.
Talk us about
Well,
Yeah.
there's
Well, you
three.
go first, whatever.
There's three key versions I'd like to talk about, but I will, because I want to talk a little bit about these, because I do like what I've seen.
And I've
or
got
played.
one to chime in on as well.
Yeah,
which
you've got a
I've
very interesting
enjoyed.
one I've only played recently, haven't I? To touch on, Street Rage 1 was released on various compilations, and I'm not even going to break the compilations down because it's come out on Dreamcast, Mega CD, various downloads. You know, I mean, generally speaking, going by what I've seen, they're all based exactly on the Mega Drive or Genesis version. You know, I will touch on the Mega CD or Sega CD version, or that came with the, what was it called again? Was it the
Sega Classics Pack?
Classics Pack, wasn't it? I was going to say Smash Pack, but that's Dreamcast.
Yeah.
I think it is Classic Pack now. That was a canny product. Now, they had a version of Golden Axe on there that only had one player, which was a travesty. But their version of Street Rage 1 was good. I mean, I believe it was full two-player. It's the Mega Drive game. It is the Mega Drive version. But I mentioned this version because it had a redone, not a redone soundtrack, would you believe it, which didn't need to anyway. That would have been interesting, wouldn't it? Imagine
for Mega CD, you'd think that would be the first thing they would do.
Well, just thinking now, it would have been really cool if they'd used Yuzo Koshiro's Bare Knuckle 1 remix CD and put the soundtrack on, but that didn't happen, and it was the Mega Drive soundtrack, which is good enough. But they did redo the sound effects, as in the voices, not all the sound effects, but the voices. So they sound much better. They sound way better because they're just, you can tell they've been done with a bit more heart. So a nice little extra point there for that version, but that's all I'll talk about with that version because it's just the Mega Drive version basically. But the three main versions I want to talk about are the Game Gear, the Master System, and the more recent mobile or cell phone game, which was a nice little surprise that crept up on us a few years back. Yeah. We'll talk about the Game Gear version first. Now, I mean, it is a handheld game. Came out in 1992. It's extremely stripped back from Street Rage 1, the Mega Drive, which is, it's a little bit disappointing that they've done that, but it is done. Again, it's probably down to the size of the format as well, as in the cartridge format. It only has 5 levels. It only has 5 levels from the original 8 of the Mega Drive game. What you get here is you get the regular, the basic level 1, as in you've got your City Street, which we all know and love. That ends with a fight with Antonio. It's pretty much exactly what you expect. Now, it looks like, I believe that the Game Gear game is 2-player, but it will be only a link
over the cable, yeah.
It would, yeah. So it will be 2-player, but you've only got 2 characters to choose from anyway. Adam's nowhere to be found, so you've got you've got Axel and Blaze to play with. No Adam, so I'd be a bit gutted there. But anyway, level 1 seems pretty much where it is. All 5 base enemy types are in there, by the way. Pretty much behaving the way they should be as well. Graphics have obviously taken a step down, as you would expect, but everything's recognisable.
It looks lovely and colourful, man.
It's very colourful game. Music's decent for what it is. It would have been a well-received, well-reviewed game. Level 2, now this is where things change very quickly, very, very soon. Level 2 jumps straight to the bridge level, which was originally level 4.
So you've got no beach and no...
you've got no...
back lane.
Back lane.
If you're from this neck of the woods. No back lane level.
So it's a little bit disappointing there. But again, this level follows the Mega Drive version pretty faithfully to what you expect. I mean, you've got weapons as well, like the other version. You've got pretty much all the weapons seem to be there. I won't go into too much detail. But the boss of that level is Bongo.
My best friend.
Aye, best friend Bongo. He's in there. Easy as hell. The bosses are extremely easy in the 2 8-bit versions, man. No challenge at all. Just seems the way they've been built, but that's the way it is. Level 3 is the ship, the classic ship level with Blaze's beautiful sisters on there. Again, no real change from what you expect. Everything just scaled back a bit, and you fight the Blaze's sisters, and they do what you would expect them to do. Level 4, factory level, and that is... Try to think about what that was again, what the bosses were on that level. I can't remember offhand now if the boss on that level was actually Bongo or Zelda. I think you just fight... I think the boss of the level is Bongo again. But anyway, it's exactly...
Sure you can Google it and find out.
Yeah, it's exactly what you'd expect. It's got I do remember that this level's traps does have traps like the regular factory from the Mega Drive version, and it's pretty much the same things. It's big crushers that come down and try and flatten you, where it's a bit different on the Master System version. Still, though, it's good. It's enjoyable. Actually, it's Bongo. It is Bongo again. I had a look here. Yeah, I have got this. I knew it. Anyway, on to level 4. Level 5, sorry, no, level 5. Level 5 is our classic HQ, the final level, Mr. X's level.
Because there's only 5 levels on the
Yeah,
game,
it's exactly the same as you would expect.
When I had it.
You fight the same 3 boss characters as basically sub-bosses through the level. In a mini boss rush, that's all you can do. And you fight Mr. X, who's curiously in a nice white suit now, but looks very, very snappy. John Travolta and all that.
Basically, they ran out of colours they could use.
I think they did, but it looks cool like that. But there's none of this. I'd say I played in 1 player, but there's no options. I mean, there's no sort of option to join them or not join them. So I'm going to assume there probably isn't in 2 player. It might be a bit much for the game. So you beat him again.
I wouldn't have thought so. I think, bear in mind the amount of people who are probably able to have a 2 player on it.
Definitely,
they'll have thought to themselves, "What's the point in?"
Maybe you'd best to play it online or no?
Well, yeah, and you could. I mean, you could fire it on something like RetroArch and play it across like the Caliera client or whatever it is.
It'd be interesting to give it a shot. But there's a nice ending. There's a few screens as well with a nice tune over playing. So overall, it would have been a nice product to own at the time. Slightly disappointing with it being quite short compared to the original version. But again, if it's down to cartridge size or time constraints, it's not a problem. It is what it is. Now, what was more impressive for me, though, was a Master System version that came a year later.
Really good port.
They could have taken the easy route here and just simply ported the Game Gear, which generally happens the other way around, but is a thing within the Master System and Game Gear, within their development cycles that they had at the time. They redesigned the game completely. All 3 characters are now present. It looks like it sounds like they've lifted most of the music directly from the Game Gear version and include at least 1 new tune as well, which is not in the Game Gear version. Because it's weirdly how in the Master System a few tunes are reused from the Game Gear version that where they shouldn't be there. For instance, level 2, our favourite level. You'll love this. The slum level, level 2, right? The tune that's playing as the soundtrack in the background is the character select ditty, and I will call it a ditty because it's literally about 3 chords, 3-second chord, and it's just constant. That is the tune for level 2, because they either didn't bother bringing the original tune over, or even just reusing a tune from a different level.
Yeah,
they just felt like using it for some weird reason. Level 3, which is something I forgot to mention about the Game Gear, but I can tie it into this. The level 3 tune, and I'm happy to mention this, is actually, right, remember level 3 is the beach. All 8 levels are present in the Master System. All 8 levels are based on the Mega Drive. Level 3 tune is actually the level 7 tune from Street Rage 2.
From the freight elevator.
From Street Rage 2.
Oh, right.
From the factory, from the first half of Street Rage 2, which is also the tune that's used in the factory level for Street Rage 1 Game Gear, which I thought was quite cool. Nice. Bear in mind, these 2 versions came out after Street Rage 2 on the Mega Drive. So it's quite cool to actually have that little nod to a different game in the series on a different higher level platform. Very cool. But it was odd to hear that tune here on level 3 after just hearing it on Street Rage 1 not more than half an hour earlier on the Game Gear, where it makes sense on Game Gear with being a factory.
Yeah.
But anyway, level's great. All the bosses at the minute are exactly where you would expect them, and also Antonio's level 1. The feel of the game is great. It's got a nice close feel to the Mega Drive version. Souther level 2, although I will admit, just like the Game Gear version, bosses are extremely easy. I mean, embarrassingly easy, as in they just don't give any sort of fight really, but they're still fun to battle, and it is an 8-bit conversion of a more powerful game on a 16-bit hardware. Level 3, you fight Aberdeen, everything exactly as you'd expect. 4, Bongo pops up just the same, goes down just the same. 5 is the sisters, as you'd expect. It's level 6 where things change a little bit. For some reason, and it's a good reason, I hope, I don't mind, even though he does feel out of place. For some reason, the people who made Streets of Rage on the Master System decided to replace the 2 Southers, and this is a good thing in a way, because I always like to see new characters, with a new boss, and he's the weirdest looking character in the whole of the Streets of Rage series, bar Ash, which we'll get to in the future, without trying to offend anybody. So the boss of level 6 is a really, really strange and unusual looking character. Now, to me, he looks like a cross between Dr. Robotnik and the Penguin. He's called the Ringmaster. He's a purple top hat wearing special person. We've agreed already. He's quite unusual looking. So
you
I don't
just
want
wanted to say a freak, but big PC.
Definitely a freak. Very, very easy. Like all the bosses in Streets of Rage and the Master System.
We're politically correct on this show.
Oh, we'll try to be in this channel, yes. He has a single move, which is like he's got a big rocket launcher on his back. I mean, I don't know why you'd have it on your back and have all of it instead, maybe for a bit of stability and accuracy in that, but I digress. He just bends over, which looks funny, and then fires a rocket out at you, which is extremely easy to
Backwards
avoid.
or forwards?
Forwards.
I was going to say, because that would look really, really good.
Show yourself in the backside with.
If he bent over backwards and fired a rocket from his arse towards you, that would be quite fun.
But it wouldn't be out of his arse, it'd be out of his rocket launcher.
But it would be above his arse.
And he'd be firing backwards away from you.
Bear in mind.
Plus, what would he be doing? He'd be basically exposing his unprotected crotch to you. So you'd be able to kick him in it, right? And then really do him some extra damage. But anyway, he's extremely easy character, but quite novelty and quite fun, because this character, the Ringmaster, he's never appeared in any other straight to age game ever, and probably won't, because he's just obscure, you know. But it's just, it completely changes the style. I mean, compared to every other character in all the games, apart from Ash maybe. But anyway, that's level 6. Level 7 is the elevator again, and not much has changed really. I mean, it's pretty much what you expect, like with the Mega Drive and from the Game Gear version as well. So still a fun level, you know, still great to play. Level 8 is the headquarters, of course, based on the Mega Drive version. Again, very similar, just with the extension now of having the extra boss of the Ringmaster in there as well, instead of like having a because you wouldn't have an extra Sour, because that just doesn't happen on the Mega Drive game. And when you go to fight Mr. X this time, he's back in his beautiful green suit, so he isn't in white suit anymore. And the fight pretty much now takes place in exactly the same way as the Game Gear version. There's no questions to join him or to, suck his dick basically. You just fight them and you kill them, and it's the end of the game. And you get a great ending. And that's the Master System in a nutshell. Like I said, all 3 characters back, all 8 levels. Not only have the not cut enemies, they give you an extra enemy. The third version I want to discuss.
I'm sorry, I can't. Before you go on, all I can think of now is Team America World Police.
Why is that?
I want you to suck my cock, Gary. After you said about sucking dick. I didn't watch that tonight.
It's a classic. It's a classic. I want a sequel to it.
I know.
We'll talk about the mobile game. Now, the mobile game, was it 2005 when it came out? I can't remember now, or 2008.
You did mention the other day.
I had the date in front of us at the time. I don't know. But not made by Sega, made by a different party, which I think might be Chinese or Taiwanese.
What platform did it release on? Was it it would have been Android. It would have been Symbian.
Android, Symbian.
Yeah, Symbian.
Symbian phones, apparently, I think. Now, the good thing about this game is, first, I think you can find this on the internet to play.
You will.
I think it's there to get, which I think you definitely should give it a go. Now, I don't think it's great. The thing is, I don't think it's great. It actually looked better in stills than it did in play. And I will be honest and say I've only watched a long play of it, not actually played it. But what they've done is, it is quite admirable, is they've taken the Street to Age 1 game, as you know it, but they've lifted sprites from Street to Age 2, and they've put them into the game. So like characters like Axel and Blaze, you don't have the Street to Age 1 sprite, you've got the Street to Age 2 sprite, so everything's big and meaty. It looks cool. Now, generally speaking, the combat system is Street to Age 1's though, so you don't have much of what you get in the sequel. I did spy, because the walkthrough, the long play was with Axel, and I did spy the player use Axel's spinning dragon punch. So that's his A buttons, standing still special.
Is the grand uppercut in that in there or not?
I didn't say anyone used the grand uppercut. Yeah. That would be an actual move.
My favourite addition to the second game.
So I have a feeling that maybe 1 or 2 moves from Street to Age 2 are in there, because it was unusual to see that move. You've got the car special move again. That is there, so pressing the A button calls it up. It does appear to be a one-player game only, because your health bar is on the left-hand side and your enemies appears on the right. So I have a feeling it's doing the Final Fight 1 Super Nintendo thing. There's no evidence that it's 2-player. Adam is missing in a manner of fashion, but one thing I thought was very cool, because it's got Axel and Blaze as 2 playable characters, a bit like the Game Gear version. You can pick up a power-up, like one item during game that actually brings Axel into it, and he fights alongside you for part of the level, which I thought was quite cool. That's why I also believe it's 1 player only, because they've tried to give a little semblance of a 2-player mode by having a CPU controlled player. And to be fair, going by what I saw in the long player, he fights quite well. He's useful to have alongside it. He's not hitting you all the time. He's not hiding off the top of the screen now. He gets stuck in. So I thought that was quite cool, and a nice little twist to an unusual version that's come out a lot later than the actual, the games when they were contemporary. I'll just talk a little bit about it as well. The game has 7 levels. Now, it actually loses the slum level, funny enough, of all the levels. It loses that. So
the most boring level.
There you go. So it's 7 levels long, not 8, but it's very good for the content you get. What they've done is, as well, I mean, the 3 main sprites are all, where possible, ripped from Streets of Rage 2. I mean, Adam isn't, obviously. They've just made them bigger or redrawn them other characters. So a lot of the enemies are the same, but it's quite odd. It's a little bit unnerving at some point, because there's versions of enemies which have taken from Streets of Rage 1, which have been enlarged. And then there's, like, obviously Streets of Rage 2 version sprite of other enemies. So there is a slight clash of styles. It's only slight. But, you know, it looks like they've tried to redraw the Streets of Rage 1 sprites to fit the style of 2, which is obviously the overall look they're going for. The levels as well. Some levels look like they've had tiles ripped from Streets of Rage 2, while others just look like expanded Streets of Rage 1 levels, like level 4, the bridge, or level 3, the bridge, sorry, now, for example. Where level 1 looks a little bit like Streets of Rage level 1, Streets of Rage 2 level 1. Anyway, but level 1, yep. Same as you expect. No real surprises other than the new graphic style. Boss is Antonio, fights exactly as you would expect. Level 2, remember, is now the beach, and looks great. I think they may have lifted some sprites, some tiles, sorry, from level 6 of Street Rage 2, but I'm not 100% certain. But obviously that does have a beach section.
Yeah.
Boss of this level isn't Aberdeen, it's Souther. So he was quite easy. Again, I think they've messed him up a little bit. He doesn't seem to be much more difficult than the Master System version, but it's nice to have him there. The character's there, and he looks the way he should in the Street Rage 1 version. Level 3 is the bridge. Now, the bridge has an unusual feature that no other version of Street Rage has ever had, that I've seen. You can, if you get knocked down, or you knock enemies down, or you do slams at a certain point of the bridge, it cracks the floor.
Right.
And hitting these areas again actually breaks holes in the floor for people to fall through.
Oh.
This is a feature that was never in any other version that I've seen. I thought it was a very cool little addition, because there is other beat 'em ups that we've seen later on that have done this type of thing. So to have this background interaction, I thought was just like special, like nice, especially when you think they didn't have to do this. They could have just pretty much ripped the Mega Drive version onto a Symbian cell phone. Boss of this level, Bongo, yeah, our favourite. But what's cool about Bongo this time is they've actually used these Street Rage 2 sprite, you know, the guy Big Ben and Big Bo and all them. Like you fight on the diamond on level 4 and that heart and all them.
Yeah.
Right? You're fighting those, you fight him like that. So he's got the baseball cap on and the suspenders and that. He laughs at you and all, although there's no sound bite. But unusually enough, he's probably the easiest boss in the game. He attacks in 2 ways, which I've found out this time. He has his main attack. His main attack is actually just a charge. He actually moves a bit more like Bill Bull from Final Fight. You know, those characters who had a big fat guys who had a charge attack. So he does a charge attack, although rarely. Most of the time he just stands around laughing and lets you beat him up. And on very rare occasions, pretty much one time I've seen, he can do his charging fire attack, and it's like, this attack he must do about maybe 10% of the time ever. So a very strange change of pace for him. I mean, fighting Bongo in this version looks very, very different from normal Street Rage 1. Instead, it looks like you're fighting an even easier version of like Big Ben from Street Rage 2. And that character was barely a middle boss, wasn't he? So,
yeah,
you know, a mini boss. But anyway, it's still nice to have a character there. And it was quite a nice little nod to see his Street Rage 2 version there, not his Street Rage 1. Level 4, cruise ship. Fight the twins again. It uses Blazer sprites, which would be the easy way out, although they are different colours this time, which is interesting. I didn't really note any special attack pattern to them, which they may have, but I've only watched one long walkthrough. And but they do move and fight pretty much like you would expect Blaze to, although they did seem to have some sort of a charge kick this time, which they seem to have on this version. But they don't seem too different, you know, as I say, apart from having 2 different coloured sprites now. Level 6, the factory, our favourite level. Well, right.
My least favourite level, yeah. Well, other than 2, maybe.
What I forgot to mention as well, because he does appear in this level, and I will mention it, is starting with level 3, the bridge. You fight an enemy that just totally goes against the development of what this game should have been. You actually fight Aberdeen. Now, Aberdeen, the sprite, is the Streets of Rage 2 sprite, which anyone knows that sprite. He looks cool as fuck, and he looks boss.
Yeah.
He is a big character. He looks hard, and he's quite a tough fight. Aberdeen's probably the first hard boss fight in Street Rage 2, and they use the Aberdeen sprite, and he's not even a middle boss. He's a little average mook. I mean, he'd sometimes have about the same energy as a Galcia.
He just looks so out of place as like a normal enemy.
It did, because you're fighting Galcias and Signals, and suddenly Aberdeen appears, and he's got takes 3 hits to kill. He seems extremely easy and all. I didn't even take note of his move set, so I wouldn't be surprised if he's only got punches or whatnot from Street Rage 2, and that's it. He didn't charge, didn't seem to do any of those moves. He didn't have a grapple attack. He just seemed to walk around a lot and get beaten up. So he appears in level 3, and he also appears in level 6, and he appears pretty much throughout the game now. And like I say, with him not even being a mini boss, don't be surprised to fight him maybe 4 or 5 times in a level. It's just that's what he's been relegated to, which seems odd after the Beach is in there, but you fight Souther instead. Maybe there could have been a cool sort of double team where you fought Souther and Aberdeen, maybe, but they didn't go there. But it is what it is. The factory, you fight a different coloured Aberdeen as well, a darker version, so that was unusual to see. And but the boss of level 6 does what the Master System version does, although we don't fight the Ringmaster, we'll fight Harakiri. Totally new character, only ever seen in this version. Obviously a complete and blatant rip-off of Sodom from Final Fight. I mean, he has 1 sword, not 2. He also has Thorn Stars, so as we agreed yesterday, he could be compared a little bit to Yamoto, one of the bosses from Street Rage Bare Knuckle 3, which we'll get to in the future.
Yeah.
It looks like we've seen that game and views with him, but he dresses a little bit like Sodom from Final Fight. He's got military style pants and mismatched Japanese attire, and anyone knows the history behind Sodom on Final Fight will be able to relate to what this guy maybe is. But it's still so cool to have another new boss. And to be fair, going by what I saw in the walkthrough, he puts up a bit more of a fight. I mean, he's got triple Thorn Stars and he's got a sword attack on that. So he's quite lethal, probably the most lethal boss in the game, actually. So nice to see this new character. Definitely look out for him if you play the game. Level 6 is the elevator. Exactly the same as you expect, except it's now teaming with Aberdeen, which completely look out of place. These half-naked Ultimate Warrior rip-offs basically flying around an elevator, although they're up to about 1 bar of health now. But you'll be fighting one and then another will come on. But I said, no boss at this level though still. I thought they might have went against type actually and put a boss at the end, which would have been cool, but it didn't, and so be it. Level 7, what was originally level 8, is now the final level, the HQ. And I like this level because they've made the effort to change the layout a bit. It's still a right to left affair, going the opposite way from all the other levels normally. Bear in mind the Game Gear version, by the way, goes left to right for some reason. But anyway, it follows the same plan as the Mega Drive, and you fight all the bosses in the order that you should now, including obviously now Harakiri before you fight the sisters. Sisters are always last. Even the conversions confirm that they're still the toughest characters. What happens now is you'll go through a section and you'll fight a couple of the bosses, and then you'll go to an outside area where you'll fight some more characters and then another sub boss. Then you'll go back indoors. This happens about 3 times before you get to the final penthouse section, where you take on Mr. X. No questions, no option to go back to different levels or to become his friend or whatnot. Very simple. But it is nice to see that they used the Street Rage 2 sprites for Mr. X, including when he's sitting in the big chair and obviously when he's fighting you as well. So doesn't seem to be anything new in the actual fight itself. I mean, Mr. X in Street Rage 2 only has the same moves that he has from the first game, but it's nice to see that they used that sprite. So
yeah.
But that's my my description of the three interesting versions. I think Martin,
I've never seen the mobile / cell version. I would like to have it, but I might try and get it. I might actually try and get it because you can emulate Symbian.
2-player, I'd play it. I would have a shot because I'd love to play it.
You can. There's a way to emulate the Symbian operating system, and failing that, I might still have my old Nokia kicking around with a Symbian on. So if I can get it down,
looking at the game as well. Though, I mean, I think it came out 2005. I mean, obviously this is still before the first smartphones. Before
like this generation, the Androids and the iPhones,
and it looks really good. It's like I mean, back in 2005, there would have still been some people, sad people, who still were playing Snake because they couldn't afford to move up a bit. So
I mean, the Symbian operating system was obviously far more advanced than like the typical Java stuff you were seeing at the time. but I don't think many games took advantage. I remember I had like a Tomb Raider and
Do you
that
know,
on it and
on the
stuff. It was a
Symbian
Nokia
system,
N-Gage. Had it?
did they have that 1942 rip-off called Soviet Wars or something?
It might have been,
Where
yeah.
that was, because that looked great. They looked like it was a 1942 game
Yeah.
when you fight the Russians and that, you know. That, but they look good. They look like fairly competent, sort of like SNES level, Mega Drive level arcade games.
I think
you know?
the only problem was you were controlling it with a mobile phone, which was typically really crap at the time.
Yeah.
You only had a few small keys. But anyway, yeah, the version I wanted to bring to light, hopefully some of you had the opportunity to play it, the 3DS 3D Classics version. So I've done a couple of playthroughs on this version this week, and I mean the base game itself is pretty much exactly what you'd expect. It's just the Mega Drive version / Genesis version,
but looks fantastic.
but in 3D, the stereoscopic 3D, it just brings another new element for any 2D game, if I'm honest. But it just pops on the 3DS. Streets of Rage looks amazing, and I'm looking forward to doing Streets of Rage 2, so I can play through it on a 3DS.
Do you know what will top this off and all? If they're doing the trilogy,
they should do
the Bare Knuckle 3 with Streets of Rage 3 and Bare Knuckle 3 in one package. So you
they should, mate. But there's been no new games on the 3DS for a long time now.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as I'm aware, they didn't do Streets of Rage 3. Only ever 1 and 2, which is unfortunate. But it's such a good conversion as well. And the emulation's by M2. And if any of you out there are into your, emulation and playing like the packs of games and stuff, M2 typically do fantastic emulation. It's like second to none. But I would advise is to play it. There's a little extra mode on there as well, which is called Fists of Death mode, and I've pretty much dubbed it the hardest.
I think we have to have a go.
It's basically a one-hit kill, so every enemy you just hit them once, and they're dead basically. So it's like a good way to get through the game if you're struggling at it, which I very much doubt.
Mr. X won't have much to say, will he? Just
stand up. He'll stand up and fall over, right?
Yeah.
Well, funny enough, the first level boss, I had a knife in my hand and I threw it off the screen just as the boss music started, and I killed him. I didn't even see him; he was just dead. So, yeah, well, it's a good game. It is. I enjoyed it, and I mean, playing it in 3D, it feels like you're playing not something new, but just a new addition to an older game.
Is that just a download, though, or is it you actually get it on a...
You can buy it as part of a Sega 3D Classics pack.
So you can get a hard copy.
Yeah, you can.
It's out there. It's out there. So obviously, this isn't something that's gone forever, which is something I definitely want to maybe discuss in the future.
I'm pretty sure you can get a pack and it's got like Outrun and stuff on as well and things like that. So
I think we should
definitely
have a discussion on this at some point. No?
Yeah, but look, I think we're pushing here. People have probably fallen asleep. We've been talking for that long. I think we should do a review, mate. And
just a quick one.
I think it's your turn to go first.
Well, I love Streets of Rage. Well, I like it a lot. As I said, it's clearly surpassed by Streets of Rage 2. It has to be. There's no way about it. I mean, obviously at the time of its release, it was an excellent game. Not massively impressive, but very playable and great fun to play. I've had great memories of it. Some, like I say, presentation is good, is well done. Everything's right. Graphics are good for the cartridge size, not outstanding, but good for what they are. It's I was always more of a Golden Axe man at that time, remember, and so I always picked that game. And Golden Axe had more material, more content, than Streets of Rage did. But Streets of Rage was completely designed from the ground up for the Mega Drive. I'm going to give the game 8 out of 10, which is a solid review,
That's a
but
good
with
score.
a couple of flaws, because I'm trying like hell to not compare it against 2, and I will, but as a standalone game compared against Final Fight, I still slightly preferred Final Fight SNES version as well, remember. Final Fight SNES version's gameplay. So I'd give, if I were reviewing Final Fight here now, I'm not going to give it a number because but it would be along the similar lines because at the end of the day, it is down to gameplay, and although Streets of Rage has oodles of it, Final Fight just has that slight better feel to it. And me at that time, I'm experiencing it as I would have played it more. Yeah, me and Mark played quite a bit, but I played one player more than anything. So I'd be playing Final Fight and be having that slightly better time than just playing Streets of Rage 1 instead. So I'd be moving on to Streets of Rage 2 if I could. So there's my review. So a solid but not perfect 8 out of 10.
Yeah, Well, I'm going to go straight in there. Yeah, I agree. I think it's an 8 out of 10 for me as well. I think if I'd not played through it again this week, I probably would have been saying 7 out of 10. But having played through it again this week a few times, I remembered how good of a game it really is. And unfortunately it's completely overshadowed by its bigger
Sequel
brother.
and some other games.
And some other games as well. But I personally prefer.
It was the groundwork, wasn't it?
I personally prefer Streets of Rage to Final Fight, the 16-bit versions. I think Final Fight Arcade is definitely better than Streets of Rage on the Mega Drive. Streets of Rage 1, that is. But yeah, look, to echo what Glenn said, animation, presentation, graphics, everything, gameplay, all great. I think 8's a fair score, solid score. And I must say, if you haven't played it, where have you been? Basically, get out there, get it played, get the Fordham played. Sorry, it's a quadrilogy now.
And the spin-offs and conversions.
Yeah. We're not going to do recommendations this week because we could probably sit here for about an hour and talk about recommendations because there's that many other beat-em-ups out there. What I would say is keep following the channel because we will be covering an awful lot of beat-em-ups. It's just the way it is.
But
90s were
the
rife
thing is,
with them,
we grew up with beat-em-ups more than most. We played a load of other games, and there's going to be some great games in the future that are not beat-em-ups. But do expect that quite a chunk of what we do and what we check out are this type of game. And I mean, I know there's a lot of viewers out there who still do love them. And I think what's great now in this day and age, we're seeing a resurgence of this type of game, even more so than some versus fighters, or we could say that even about 60-40 versus
it only took them 20 years to realise that it doesn't really work as well in 3D and just to go back to 2D and do it better.
Yeah, I mean, some of the 3D stuff and that now, you look at that, what they're trying to do. I mean, I think the only good 3D beat 'em up was Fighting Force me, and that wasn't perfect, but I thought it went in the right direction. Yeah,
it was a good attempt.
Maybe to some extent, Dynamite Decker as well, though.
And God Hand. That was good.
Yeah, I've heard good things about it. I've never played God Hand.
I have. It was an excellent game.
But I had a game called Soul Fighter on the Dreamcast, and that was trying to be like a 3D Golden Axe, and it was like probably the most dullest thing I've ever played.
I know that
it
game.
would go on for hours, and it was like the intention was there, but it wasn't great. But the standard 2D beat 'em up where you're hitting people on the left and hitting people on the right just works. I know you wouldn't do that in real life. If some guy come at you from the top and was facing you, you would face him. You wouldn't just let him punch you in the side of the head. But if everybody could agree in real life to just face each other side on and hit each other side on, the whole world would be a better place, wouldn't it, Mark?
Of course, it would be flat, but
you might crash into each other occasionally from time to time, or since there'd be collision detection in real life, But then you could just agree to move backwards or something away from each other to, line each other up again.
Fair enough.
Yep.
Just have free planes like Guardian Heroes.
Well, there you go. There's another one. Another one for the future. That's a game I loved.
But look, as always, everyone, thank you very much. If you've managed to stay with us until the end, I think we're probably about now and 40 minutes in on this one.
I think
it is by far. I thank you very much for your time. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope we didn't send you to sleep. Stick around. We've got a lot more games coming up. We're planning on a 10th episode as a milestone episode, which we won't share at the minute, but we'll maybe drop a few hints on the way.
Please do keep checking out. There's always new content. We'll try in our little way to keep it interesting where possible. At the end of the day, we are personally like to say it is. You've got a couple of blokes talking about something that they loved as a kid. So I'd like to think
do.
And that's it. We still love now. So I'd like to think if we were all sitting in the bar with us now, and we all had good drinks, and we're all into the same type of stuff, would be just getting excited and just getting rosy cheeked and just loving to talk about the games that we loved and still love now. So as I said, we don't try any sort of gimmicks or anything to really.
Not yet.
Well, we'll see what the budget brings. We'll see what yours maybe out was going. But anyway.
No, it's as always, like I say, thank you very much for the support, guys. We look forward to the next episode. Please join us on social media. Drop us some comments, give us a like, drop us a review on the podcast. And from both of us, we're going to sign on out for tonight.
Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much.
Enjoy.
And see you next time. Thanks, everyone.
Take care.
Bye now. Bye.